Welcome everyone to Already Cancelled. I am Pierre, and that is Tara. This is a place where we talk about TV shows. The name of the show is Babylon 5, and the year is 2020. I said that the wrong way around. Look, I'll nail this new intro. Right? I nailed it last time. I seem to be going one on, one off, one on, one off.
You need to do like a post-it note.
Yes. I actually
Not
have
that I
one.
wanted to talk.
I mean, I have one for other things I need to say, but not so much the Babylon 5 intro. So this is season 1, episode 12. I'm on the wrong episode, I just realised. Episode 12, and it's called By Any Means Necessary. So this episode is all about the dock workers on Babylon 5 and how they're overworked, underpaid, understaffed, and a big accident kind of prompts them to essentially go on strike, and the dispute that follows through from that. Plus a delightful subplot with Londo and Jakar at each other's throats, which is always enjoyable. So, what did you make of By Any Means Necessary?
I thought this was a pretty good episode. Maybe even great episode.
Maybe even great. Oh. There's a lot I like about this. I do think that part of me thinks the resolution at the end is a little bit too neat and easy. But given that this show likes to prod at these tough questions and doesn't give us straight answers and acknowledges that there is no clean fix to a lot of these problems, this episode does get a clean fix. However,
there are consequences.
There are consequences. That was kind of the main thing, yeah. Is that it does set up that there's consequences for Sinclair in particular, that he did find this loophole to solve the problem. Because it's worth mentioning that Sinclair and the others all basically agree with the dock workers and the union leader, whose name was Neoma. It's like Naomi, but not. But they basically agree.
It's future Naomi.
It's future Naomi, yes. I mean, they agree. They think they do deserve more money. They know they're understaffed. They need new equipment. All these things. They agree with all of these things. But EarthGov is like, nah, we're not giving you any more funding. That's more than enough to run the docks and all these other facilities on Babylon 5.
Yeah, I like what it says about Earth in the future, and I like that this episode is the first one where you're really like, okay, this isn't Star Trek. Because Star Trek would never have an episode about workers being overworked or underpaid and things going wrong and mismanagement, or maybe mismanagement's the wrong word, but like this is still... Star Trek Future has like a world without money, so there is, although Deep Space Nine like sort of brings money back in for the most part, like everybody's happy with their job. Like it's a utopia future, but this is still like, no, it's still very much America, but in the future. We still have capitalism. We still have governments that are putting money into resources that are bad for, the common worker, but help them out.
Overspending on military. What's that? I've never heard of such a thing.
I mean, they were really happy to get those new ships last week, but don't think the workers didn't notice.
Yeah, that's true. That's a really interesting. I didn't even thought of that those new ships were brought up last episode. You're right.
Yeah. I mean, they bring up that I don't know when the budget allotted for like 1.3 million or something into military spending, and they're not talking about the new ships that showed up last week, but I say last week because we watched it last week, but the last episode.
Yeah. Although to be fair, it wasn't that 1.3 million is what Sinclair takes from the military budget to give to them. That's not necessarily what the military budget got.
It was 1 point something.
Yeah. So, there was an accident at the start of the episode where a Narn ship is coming in, and there's nothing super special about it. It's an Narn cargo ship, essentially just delivering supplies and whatnot, including something that Jakar is very, very passionate about. But there's a malfunction, and the pilot panics against Ivanova's orders, and there's an explosion, and it leads to the death of one of the dock workers, who has a brother who's kind of the lead dock worker. We kind of see not the leader of the because the leader of the disputes is Naoma. It's really hard not to say Naomi, But that kind of spirals into the strike and the the blue flu, where everyone calls in sick, and it's essentially a strike, but not really, to get around the legality of it being a strike, and it kind of develops from there. And we have this representative who comes from Earth to sort of the hard government man who's going to come in and like shoot all this down, and we keep hearing about the Rush Act, and I like how it's very clear what the Rush Act is as the episode goes on without them ever explaining it, which I think I kind of like.
Yeah.
Because it's very clear, really. Like the Rush Act's like, oh, we don't want this. This is going to involve like military intervention, and Garibaldi's men's going to have to enforce this if it's enacted. It's never like in doubt that this is something they want to avoid.
Yeah, I looked up the trivia on this episode because I always do. And apparently the Rush Act is named after Rush Limbaugh, who's a conservative radio talk show host and is known for being very hard on like unions, and well, he's got the conservative viewpoints, so they're anti anything that might cost them extra money in taxes and whatnot. So it's I guess it's a little bit of a like watch out for, be careful how we proceed in the future, because things like the Rush Act might go through and Rush Limbaugh might get his way. I thought that was kind of funny.
Nah, that's a neat tie to the real world, which is cool.
I mean, this show's from the 90s, and he was like on his own mountain in the 90s.
Yeah. So, and the debates are all kind of, like, obviously, I guess a little bit heated. Naoma is very passionate. She's demanding that things have to change. They were promised a raise, going into the next year. The last negotiator promised them this, and this. None of it happened. And it keeps escalating to the point where, when Garibaldi first walks down and they're all like sort of cheering and chanting and she's making a speech, they all start booing Garibaldi. And it puts us into this place where we're kind of expecting that, Garibaldi might not be completely safe surrounded by this crowd. And later on, when Sinclair walks into this crowd, he equally might not be super safe. And it feels like there is kind of a divide here. And it's funny because at one point, Naoma kind of tries to appeal to Garibaldi. Yeah, I think it's just before because they put on all the riot gear, the black padded outfit we've seen him wear a couple of times. And I think it's at that point where she tries to appeal to him and says, look, Ivanova and Sinclair, like, they're clearly, military, born and bred. This is what they've been their whole lives. But you look your blue collar. Like underneath that grey suit that you wear, you're a blue collar worker at heart. And I guess it's one of these things where not as effective, of course, as the episode with the alien parents, but it's kind of the same thing as that, where you kind of like, you're on the side of these people and what they're wanting, but the leader of the station, in Sinclair, is kind of in this bind because of the rules he has to follow and the diplomacy that he has to deal with. And
the station is like falling apart. Like, people are trying to get to board and they don't have enough crew, and because of the strike, like all the irritating things are just piling up on Sinclair, and like he's gonna have a short fuse because he's not getting enough sleep and he's got too much going on, and they don't resolve this issue, then like people can't use the station. Yeah,
there's no ships coming or going. And the Admiral, when he tells the Admiral, look, we need to solve this, we have to give them something, the Admiral's like, I have complete confidence that you will be able to figure this out.
Right. Thanks.
Yeah, thanks for that. Delightful. He actually doesn't seem like such a bad guy later on, because he sort of admits, like, my grandfather was a blue collar worker. I kind of appreciate all the people you've pissed off today by this loophole, but I'm warning you, you've made some enemies in high places because you've done this.
He's not a bad admiral.
He's not a bad admiral, yes.
This isn't Star Trek.
It's not Star Trek, where the cartoony admirals always seem to rear their ugly head. But yeah, so they're going to employ the Rush Act. The guy that shows up, who you kept referring to as young Christopher Lee,
he looks so much like Christopher Lee.
I can see it a little bit. But this guy Zento, he shows up and he's very short fused with them. He gives them a lot of buzz phrases. He's like, the government sympathizes with your situation.
Yeah, they've sent their best negotiator.
Yes.
Like, he's definitely not on their side from the beginning. Like, he just he's a salesman when he shows up, and once he realizes that they're not going to budge, which, after like one negotiation, he just immediately is like, all right, martial law.
Yeah, it's time. Break out
He's the worst negotiator.
the gas grenades or whatever. Yeah, break out the tear gas.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and then we actually do have a fight scene where Garibaldi's men go in, and there's a bit of a ruckus, and they're all sort of like, swinging and aiming and whatever. Mm-hmm. Sinclair comes in. Sinclair's actually thought of a solution. And like I say, it's a bit neat, but there is consequences, and I do think it is at least a little bit smart, because as we find out, the wording of the Rush Act is that the strike has to be squashed by any means necessary. And Sinclair even makes a point of making Zento say, you agree that I have this power and that you'll back whatever I decide to do to fix this right now. And he says, yes. It's like, of course, Commander, full support. And he's like, okay, in that case, I then therefore have the power to take budget from the military spec. Because that was one of the things that was brought up earlier in the episode from Neoma, is that the military budget, that got all these extra benefits in the past year. All the new budget cuts are
right.
Not cuts, but I mean, everything else got slashed.
They kept saying they don't have money to give the workers.
And Sinclair seems to agree that they didn't really need more money in the military side of things. Like, that's running.
Yeah, they're in a time of peace right now.
Yeah, that's running smooth. So this, of course, gets met with cheers. Zento's pissed and embarrassed, which is obviously
humiliated, I'd say. Yeah.
Humiliated, which is, again, why his friends in high places might now be enemies of Sinclair. I think this episode, if nothing else, kind of the point of it, because I feel like Sinclair fighting for the right people is something that's been established repeatedly at this point. Mm-hmm. I think more than anything, though, this is maybe the more direct effects of some of the stuff we've been hearing about Earth. It's another side of that. Obviously, the president assassination stuff was also a big part of that just last time, but I think all the stuff that we're teasing throughout the first, say, 8 to 10 episodes is really starting to pay off in these little things. Like, oh, I have the context for this political climate that they're now using to tell this story in.
Yeah, I like the story that they told here. I like getting the perspective of the workers, and it's not like a malfunction that happens in the beginning. It's more of just a flat out accident because they were being rushed. They were already behind, and then the Narn ship was like, "This is an outrage. I have, precious cargo. I need to get in right away." And they, Ivanova asked for a favor, and then before you know it, like they tried to help, and that one extra thing just caused an accident. Like, two ships were going in the opposite direction. They're supposed to be the flight people.
Yeah, well, no, I like that you brought up that scene, because I think that is a really good job at the start of the episode, because Ivanova calls down to the main dock worker we see throughout the episode, and he's like, "Oh, come on, I'm we're overworked. We've got 3 docks going, blah blah." He says a bunch of stuff, and she's like, "I know, I get it, but you know what the Narn are like." And even he's like, "Yeah, I know. I'll prioritize this." And you can see
he's trying to do her a favor, and it it ends in an accident, and it does result in the death of one of the workers.
The only thing I'll correct you is there is definitely a malfunction, though, because they specifically bring up that the core issue is that something did malfunction.
Well, because the Narn freaks out and starts his engine inside the chamber that they're in, and I think that causes some sort of act.
Because that's one of the arguments to come up, is that the equipment needs replaced. Everything needs to be upgraded, and because they talk about how the contractor who built the docks and all their bays cheaped out on equipment.
Yeah, but it's also you're right. It is the equipment, but also more importantly, it is that the workers are not being treated as humans. And I think this is something I sort of relate to my time in the Navy. Like I'm this is more like post Navy when I got out, but there's a 3-year period where we kept getting these stories on the news about the U.S. Navy making these stupid errors, ships crashing into each other, or pulling up to a pier and just slamming into it instead of doing it properly. And there's just these stupid accidents that result in the death of people. And in my time, there's this weird pride of like, if you're like you're not really a hard worker unless you have had like 4 hours of sleep that night. And then, you know, you have watches in the middle of the night and people, you try to go to sleep early and then someone talks you out of it. Like, that's not the Navy way. It's, you know, I don't know, maybe the story was just a bit more relatable like that. Like,
oh, sure.
When I was hearing those stories on the in the news, I kept thinking, I know what caused it. They're overworked. They're overworked and they're not sleeping enough. They don't have the type of rest that they're required. And sure enough, like that is something that started to change after.
Yeah, you know, that's there. It's all about double and triple shifts and how even they work a double shift and then they have 4 hours before the next shift starts and stuff like that. I think the irony that I like about this is that it goes back up the chain, because what does Sinclair go through this episode? He ends up working for 2 days straight with no sleep because he's having to deal with all these.
He's even got a 5 o'clock shadow in this episode.
Yeah, they let the beard grow in a little bit.
And he lets his shirt open a bit, or his jacket.
Yeah, the second day he's not even like, I'm not even being formal today. Like, I'm walking around with my uniform half open, like I am in no mood for this shit. Which is why it's funny that then the subplot also revolves around him being pestered by other characters for something he's clearly not got time for. He's too busy dealing with this shit to be dealing with Londo and G'Kar.
It's something that he's able to, you know, resolve at the end. Still, even when he's overworked.
If anything, this episode shows that Sinclair is very good at his job and is good at finding solutions to problems.
Is definitely his showcase so far.
Because the plot with G'Kar and Londo is that ship was bringing G'Kar this fancy flower that he needs for his religious ceremony, which is actually something that I thought was interesting in following up the religion episode that we had way back in episode 4 or 5. Is that we find out that Na'Toth doesn't actually follow the same religion he does. Interesting.
Again, this is not Star Trek.
Yes.
Not every alien is exactly the same. In fact, the Narn have atheists on them, like they have, and she seems to be one.
Yeah, I thought that was a really interesting little tidbit. But he's really upset because he needs this flower. He's supposed to burn it in this ritual. This weeks or month long like part of his year, which are this religious ceremony, ends with him burning this flower. At the same time, the light goes past this mountain, which is what the ritual is named after, on the Narn planet. So even if you're not there, you do it, whatever, right? So he's very upset about this and he wants one. And there's a scene where, obviously I'd seen up until a certain point in the season before, and I almost made this scene funnier where Londo comes up and talks about, oh, I heard about your cargo. It's very unfortunate. Yes, you will.
He's
let me know.
Smelling some flour too at a cart.
Yeah, you'll let me know if there's anything I can do, my good friend G'Kar. And he walks away, and it popped into my head. Oh, wait a minute, I remember where this is going. He's got it. He's got one. And right immediately, Na'Toth comes up. It says, it's too late to get anything in time for the ritual. But there is one life form on board who has one. It's like, who is it? Ambassador Mollari. What? And he turns around and Mollari's just over at the elevator. Just the door's shut.
He's
and
gloating.
Like, whoa! He's just I don't know. He's the energy coming off Londo in this episode because he's delighted that he's got something G'Kar wants is delightful. And the chemistry when Londo comes back to his quarters and the door's just open and G'Kar's sitting there just patiently. He's like, you left your door open, Mollari, and I thought it'd be best to guard your quarters until you return. He's like, yes, did you find anything whilst you were guarding the quarters? No.
I love how defeated he is in this scene.
Oh, it's delightful.
Yeah. So, just sitting there like waiting to get caught, like, whatever, I'm at my lowest point. What do you want for it?
Yeah. And even just the anger when, because Londo's like, it sounds for friends, G'Kar, out of diplomacy, intergalactic diplomacy, I'll let you have it for, say, 50,000. It's like, and anytime G'Kar stands up and says something's an outrage, I'm usually a happy man. But then he changes his mind, it's back and forth. They end up nagging Sinclair, which leads to a wonderful scene actually where he has them thrown off the bridge. They come out to C&C along with the reporter, and they just won't shut up.
Yeah, plus the curly-haired Fox News reporter.
Yes.
she's there pestering him also. And it's a great moment for Ivanova also.
Yes, because she gets to be the one
flex her authority.
Yeah, she's the one who gets to actually like sort of stare them down and walk them out.
with a countdown, like a child.
The countdown. Which Garibaldi ends. He just casually walks in at the end. It's like 2, 1.
What I miss?
Yeah. No, I mean all of this is delightful. The resolution to it is that Sinclair discovers, because actually, well, we sort of gloss over a scene where Sinclair actually tries to go to Londo to ask him to just just sell it to him, please, just to keep peace and quiet around here. Can you please sell it to him? And Londo's like, I'd rather burn it than sell it to him. But at the end of the episode, he's like, look, I looked at this flower. It's because of the genetic makeup. Technically, it's classed as a what would you call it?
I think it's an explosive, but I'm pretty sure Londo uses it because of a drug effect. He says something about mixing it with alcohol.
Yeah, for him it's like a mixer with a drink. But I was just looking for the word prohibited or something. But anyway, he's like,
oh yeah.
Unless you've got like medical or religious reasons for having it, which obviously Jacquard does. So he's like, you're going to turn it into me because it's illegal. And Londo, and I love Londo, but he's it actually made me sympathize more with Jacquard than Londo, which is not something the show does very often. I tend to side more with Londo than Jacquard. But he leans in and goes, I've already had my fun with it anyway, or my pleasure with it anyway. He rubs it in. It's so nasty.
Yeah, you're getting my leftover flour.
Yeah. And Jacquard's all upset because the time's passed, and Sinclair's like, look, there's a bit of a loophole here, okay? The light that hit your mountain, we're 10, 12 light years away. So the light that hit it 10 years ago is going to be, hitting the station tomorrow. Why not use that? It's the same light. Does that not work? And he's like, yes, I guess it does. So the end of the episode is actually him kneeling down with these, a few other Narn on the station who also celebrate this process. And they burn their flower. It's funny because it's one of those ones where I came out of the episode thinking that the main plot was solid, but it was the subplot that I actually found myself gravitating towards. And
well, you really like those characters, I understand.
I do, but I think even beyond that, I think giving, and this has happened once or twice now, but giving Jacquard something where I actually kind of sympathize with him a little bit, and as much as he threatens people as he often does in this episode, because he does it a few times, he does seem very thankful at the end. When he does his salute where he puts his 2 hands on his chest to Sinclair. It feels very genuine. It feels like he's actually really grateful that Sinclair's found a way to make this work for him.
Yeah.
I think that was kind of sweet.
Yeah, I agree. I like the main plot. I also like the guest star, the female in this one. I like her role. She's not there to just be like, I don't know, typical hot lady girl of the week. She actually has like a job where she's in charge and she feels like she should have that job.
Yeah, no.
I think she's written well.
No, yeah, I think she's solid as well. And there's more of a mutual respect with her and Garibaldi, other than say any flirting that Garibaldi might sometimes be prone to. He held it in, and I'm proud of him. I'm proud of Mr.
She's
Garibaldi.
definitely his type.
Oh, she is. Yeah. I mean, let's be honest. If they didn't get the actress for Talia, this actress could have been the fill-in.
Yeah, she's like a shorter version of Talia.
Yeah.
Maybe a little less glam.
Yeah. That's all hair and makeup. I were in the chair. That's all it needs. That's what they're paid for. So no, I mean it's a solid episode, building the world a little bit more, giving us another element of the station, which I appreciate. Because I like the idea that we're getting a sense of the station at all these different levels. We've got the black market level with Praying Mantis dude. We've got the dock workers. We've got the security teams. We've had a nice sort of and then of course you have the ambassadors, you have Sinclair in command, all the rest of it. So
yeah,
we're getting the whole chain of.
We haven't had our Ambassador Kosh episode yet. I mean, he sort of had one with the Talia one, but I think we're due for a Kosh episode.
Yeah, big one. It wouldn't surprise me if that was towards the end of the season. If that was like a big.
I don't think I remember any big moments with him.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if that's saved in a big sort of special treat when we finally get a bit more proper Kosh. Yeah, I can see that. So that's basically the episode.
Yep, pretty good.
Pretty good.
Maybe great.
Next one is I know is a biggie. Episode 13 is the biggie.
Well, yeah,
of the season.
You know why?
Yes. Garrett Graham guest stars next week's episode.
The greatest actor of all time.
But it's also a big deal for setting up the plot of the series. So we shall join you for that. But you can let us know what you thought of By Any Means Necessary in the comments. Please do liking super important. Is super helpful. YouTube recommends us out to more people if you do so. Same with commenting and subscribing. All those things are all very important. You can also support us financially, can't you, Tara?
That's right. If you enjoy our reviews, please check out our Patreon page. It's patreon.com/SmileFuzzTV. And if you donate as low as $1 per month, you will get access to bonus episodes for other shows we do, including the ACE, the Atomic Cinema Experiment, which is our science fiction movie review show. And if you donate $5 per month, you will get access to these Babylon 5 reviews 1 week early. So catch up and watch along with us. Thank you.
Beautiful.
I always slow that train down at the end.
You did just fine. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise.
You're the only one who tells me otherwise.
Well, I'll say for me. Obviously, I'm an exception. I'm in charge. I am the Sinclair and you're the Ivanova, and that's how we roll. Obviously, Matt's Garibaldi.
Does Ivanova take over when Sinclair leaves?
No. No. At that point, I will transition to the new command. I don't know. The actor's Bruce Boxleitner, but I don't know the character's name.
We shall find out together.
Because I never watched season 2, so you know. So we'll find out. We'll find out in the not too distant future. But that is us. So thank you once again for watching or listening. We always appreciate it. Keep watching Babylon 5. Just don't give away the home world.